For more than 85 years, we have been creating adhesives to meet the demands of our customers' label printers. And we have been doing so not only in Europe, but globally. We have quite a large number of technical specialist engineers, or we call them adhesive developers, in different parts of the world, working on adhesive innovations. This is especially valuable when you work with global brand owners of global customers, because they want to have one product that is same or similar across different regions and across different applications. So how do we do this? We make use of the 3 adhesive coating technologies across emulsion, hot melt, and solvent. We have all 3 in-house, and this is also pretty unique for the players in the industry. What we then can do, we can define a chemical composition within each and every one that will influence in the end how the adhesive performs. So within each and every, we can have acrylic or rubber-based type of chemistry, but also when you talk at solvents, there in the last years, we saw that hybrids and silicone have also the place for its existence. If you got a chance to see in our booth, there is a durable corner with a car, and specifically there, you can see 2 adhesives. One is hybrid adhesive, which is a combination of acrylic and rubber. That's why it's a hybrid. And it's usually the adhesive that sticks really well to very difficult surfaces. So very rough type of surfaces use that adhesive. An example of silicone adhesive is the one that sticks to silicone. So for instance, an airbag in a car made of silicone, only silicone adhesive can stick to it. Same as a steering wheel. There is even a 3rd layer that we can build to these adhesives, which is in each and every, you can have a permanent or removable adhesive possibility. So the one that sticks for a long time are the ones that you can remove on demand. But there is actually more. There are more flavors to the adhesive making. And that has led to the fact that we have more than 160 adhesives in Europe only. So all this level of customization is possible when you tweak these technologies and you mix the chemistries. So when we develop an adhesive, or when you come to us and say, I want specific functionality, we start with application in mind. What is it for? Is it pharma? Is it beer and beverage? Is it a generic adhesive that goes across segments and should just have low cost? So that's the definition we need to start with. The next point is, where do you want to stick it to? What is the surface that you're labeling? That is one of the critical elements for us to give a proper advice. And then what comes on top is actually what are all other conditions. Do you want it to be removable? Do you want it to be able to stick even in the freezer conditions? Do you want it to have a positive impact on recycling? So these are all different features that can be added or modified. There is an important point for us is that we have the facility where at Avery Dennison we design and make our own adhesives. This puts us in a position that we can tweak it to whatever you need them to be. So we don't have to wait for a long time for a supplier to come up with something new. We can do it ourselves in our own kitchen, so-called. Here we've created for you a directional comparison. So let's say you combine few different technologies. So you combine technology with the chemistry. What impact will it have on the actual performance of the adhesive in your application? So let's say you want something that is fast speed, very good conversion dispensing, something that has food approval, and still low cost. Emulsion acrylic is the way to go. By the number of stars, you see the most preferable option. It's very directional. We will need to know more details, but at least it gives you the essence. Or if you want something that sticks to very difficult surfaces, the rough that you can imagine, you're better off in a solvent rubbers. And let's say you have a closure opportunity. something that sticks to the wet wipe package with a very harsh solvents inside, let's say to clean your car or to clean the table in the kitchen. There you can use the adhesive, and the best choice would be solvent acrylics. So really, this part. So when you mix, as you can see, a technology and a chemistry, you can create a different functionality. If we look on adhesive making and the trends for the coming years, we believe that these three will be the one that will remain. Whatever we do now in adhesive development, it will be either around sustainability, around functional packaging, or around legislation or compliance. It's another way to call it. Sustainability, a good example is Clean Flake, the adhesive that also not only looks nice on a bottle and helps the premium shelf appeal, but also helps to recycle this bottle into food-grade rPET. Another example that is there is the Clear Cut. If Clean Flake is about recycle and reuse, Clear Cut is about reduce. So how to use thin constructions without compromise on shelf appeal and your operations. So these are the examples of adhesives that meet the trend, and we will have more fitting that area. If you look at functional packaging, I have the two examples of removable and reclosure. R100, it's not a new adhesive. I would say it's the best performer for years already. And another one is MR980R. This is a specific adhesive that we have for the use of reclosure type of application, where the very high solvent resistance is required. Functionality and self-adhesive labels go hand in hand. So also in adhesives, this will remain the trend. And last but not least, you can also see it in our booth, specifically for pharmaceuticals, but you can think of any other application where security is required. So there we have developed an adhesive that meets the Falsify Medicine Directive of the European Union to ensure that the product has not been tampered, that what is inside is genuine, so that your paracetamol will really do the job of paracetamol. And last but not least, I think you know this adhesive, if you work with us by heart, definitely the best adhesive when you need a fatty food approval, something for the best compliance for the food market. And now I would like to invite René to give you even a level deeper into adhesive making.
Okay, thank you, Natalia. You can all hear me? Okay, excellent. I'm here to tell you about my wonderful job as an adhesive developer. How can we make sure that you choose the right adhesive? If you look at the choices you have, you really have to consider four major pillars. The first one is the application. Do I need to have a paper face stock, or do I need to have a film face stock in my application? This matters for the adhesive choice. Also, like Natalia said, do I need special requirements? Should the label be removable, or should it... Sorry? Oh, closer to the mouth. Okay. This is it? Yeah? Okay. Or should it be a wash-off under certain conditions? Then the next item to talk about is the surface to be labeled. This is really critical, and I will show you in the next slide how the surfaces can be defined by their criteria. Another point is the temperature, and there we speak about two different temperatures, which are sometimes confusing. One of them is the minimum application temperature. So this is where the end user will apply the label onto the substrate. And then we have the surface temperature, which is the total temperature range which the label can withstand while still being able to stick well to the substrate. And then finally, are there any specific adhesive requirements? Some customers or some end users demand special levels of tack or peel in their application, and some, for example, want to have a very smooth reclosure and they do not allow any sound when the adhesive is being pulled from their package. So the surface to be labeled is very critical when it comes to choosing the right adhesive. And we can put them basically on a pretty continuous scale. We go from basically smooth and easy all the way to extremely difficult. If we start with smooth, then already we have to make a distinction between because not all smooth substrates are equal. And this basically has to do with the polarity of the substrate. And to show you what polarity means, I will quickly move to this slide. Here you can see 4 different surfaces which have very different polarity. On the left hand side you have a very polar surface, and on the right hand side you have a very apolar surface. You can quickly picture this in your mind. On the right, if you have taken your car through the car wash, it is treated with a special wax which gives it a very low surface tension, and therefore the water droplets are unable to wet onto the surface. If we go to the very left hand side, if you have a very polar surface, then the water is very easy to dwell onto the substrate, and this is exactly the same for an adhesive. If you have an apolar surface, then most adhesives will not kindly stick to it. So think of apolar as being polypropylene or HDPE. And if you have a polar surface, you will have a much easier task to get high levels of tack and peel quite quickly. And think of polar as, for example, polyester. It's very easy to stick to polyester. So polarity is a big topic, but obviously if we move more towards the right hand side, we can start seeing the increase of roughness. Obviously, if you have a much more undulated surface, it becomes more difficult for the adhesive to stick onto the hills and the valleys. On top of that, for example, if we take cardboard is not only quite rough, but it's also made of very many loose fibers, which are easily torn from the structure. So again, there you need an adhesive which gives very high grab immediately to the cardboard. If we move more towards the right, we can see even rougher surfaces like, for example, wood, but also contaminated surfaces. And here you have to think of dust, oil, but also condensation can be quite challenging for an adhesive to master. And also tires. Tires are notoriously difficult to stick to, depending on whether they are winter or summer tires. Because they have quite a lot of materials which can migrate to the surface, and they are in any case treated with a silicone mold release agent. And then towards the very extreme, we have obviously the examples which Natalia already highlighted. So these are silicone rubber materials, for example, which have extremely low surface energy, or hot metals. So coming to temperature, this is a very interesting piece around adhesives. If we look at the minimum application temperature, this is the temperature at which the adhesive is still able to get sufficient tack during a label dispensing application. And I quickly switch to this slide. This slide basically shows you the application temperature at which the end user is going to label the substrate. And on the left-hand side, you see the tack of the adhesive. So the power of the adhesive to grab onto the substrate. And I've shown here 3 different adhesive types. Due to the nature of an adhesive, it will always exhibit a certain maximum temperature. And below this application temperature, the adhesive will be pretty much dead, because it is basically turned into a glassy type of material. And above the temperature, it has a very good holding power. And if you look at all of the data sheets concerning adhesives, you will always find this minimum application temperature here, because it very much speaks to the nature of the adhesive and the way it was designed in our labs, basically. And you can see here 3 examples. The room temperature adhesive has a maximum around 5 degrees in this case, and it is really, not sticking anymore at -5, while a deep freeze adhesive that you can see here in the red actually is able to have quite a high level of tech, all the way down to -15, -20 degrees. Interestingly enough, and this is a little known fact often, if you look at this curve, you can actually see that this deep freeze adhesive has in fact very low tech at high temperatures. And this is interesting because sometimes the removable adhesives are also performing very well in deep freeze applications. Coming back to the temperatures again, the minimum application temperature matters during application. The surface temperature is really what the adhesive can withstand while still being able to hold on to the substrate. And normally this is a range going from quite low, often -50, -80, all the way to quite high temperatures, easily up to 80 and 100 degrees Celsius. And you can see here that we actually are introducing the C25P pharma adhesive, which is actually able to be applied down to -50, which is quite an achievement for an adhesive to do.
If you go next one. So when you leave today this seminar, the one word I would like to remember is heritage. We are doing this for 85 years and we will continue to do so. The adhesive making is the core for us, and there we have all the technologies available, the global reach, the R&D facilities and people and know-how to help you to solve your adhesive challenge. What is important, if you do not know, we have in every region in Europe, but also in other parts of the world, TSS team, which are technical sales, who are not people that only sell your product, but they also advise you. And they test with you different applications, and they can tell you which adhesive would better suit to your application. So make sure you make use of those. And if you would like to stay in touch, we try to post on our adhesive page some of the newest developments.